On Tuesday, the Ukrainian government announced that it had launched a counteroffensive against rebels in Mariupol, which is on the Azov Sea. This was an area that the rebels had tried to exert further control over a couple of weeks ago. But really, since this counteroffensive began on Tuesday morning, attention has been diverted to Kramatorsk, which has been fully under Ukrainian control since the summer. On Tuesday afternoon, we saw a huge rocket explosion in Kramatorsk, which is fully on the Ukrainian side. It's about 50 kilometers from the front line, 100 kilometers from Donetsk. And so now the question is, what does Ukraine do next? Over the past few days, we've seen a huge amount of fighting centered around the railway hub of Debaltseve. This was an area that was also under Ukrainian control for weeks and months, but there's been a huge upsurge in fighting. Ukrainian soldiers I talked to in a hospital nearby to Debaltseve said that they'd seen a huge uptick in modern equipment that the rebels were using, and also a number of people suggesting that this equipment and people were flowing in from Russia. There have been a lot of questions about why Debaltseve has emerged as a new tipping point in the fight between the rebels and Kiev. One reason is that it's in the center of this huge railway hub, and also in the coal mining territory. This supplies Ukrainian electricity generators, and also which Ukrainian steel makers depend on. So this would be a huge advantage to the rebels. And the attacks on Debaltseve really seem to have caught the Ukrainians off guard. You have a huge number of Ukrainian soldiers being wounded in the fighting there. And there's been a huge increase in shelling since the start of the year. From basically the month of December, you had a relatively quiet period. For the first time, it seemed that the ceasefire agreed upon in September was actually working. You had actually a large number of residents returning to the city after being away for months because they thought it was safe to come back. So surprisingly, a lot of people have stuck around. First of all, a lot of people don't have anywhere else to go. You have people living underground here in bunkers because they don't feel safe living in their own apartments. Some people went abroad for the summer when the shelling was quite heavy, but then they ran out of money or they didn't want to keep living on relatives or friends' couches, and so they came back. And the fact that the shelling did decrease during December gave everyone a false sense of calm. At the same time, a lot of residents actually seem quite optimistic about the situation here. As bad as the violence still is, it's really brought a sense of community in quite a strange way. There's an atmosphere of the city being under siege. And it's been interesting how many of the residents, some of whom actually said that they had been against the separatists and the rebels at the beginning, have really come around to the new government and think that the rebels are on their side and feel that they are under attack from the Ukrainian army. So depending on what happens in Minsk and what happens, over the next few weeks and months, it really feels at this point that there's a huge divide between the local population and the Ukrainian government. And it seems like even people who supported the Ukrainian government before don't seem ready to forgive them for all the violence that has been going on and blame them for the shelling.